I'm Von Biggs, and let's queer up health. New study shows men reach their sexual peak later than thought. Vice reports that the long-held belief that men reach their sexual peak in their 20s is not supported by science. The article opens by saying there is a rumor we have all been fed for years that men hit their sexual peak in their 20s and then slowly coast downhill. But according to a new research published in Scientific Reports, that idea is outdated. The study analyzed sexual desire data for more than 67,000 people between the ages of 18 and 89. What the researchers found is striking. Vice explains that the research showed that men's sexual desire did not crest early and collapse. Instead, it kept climbing and reached its highest point in the late 30s and early 40s. The researchers note that this has little to do with testosterone and more to do with life circumstances becoming more stable. They state that long-term relationships often bring higher sexual activity and stronger emotional intimacy, which support greatest desire. One of the most powerful lines from the article says that by midlife, many men have fewer questions about what they want and fewer hang-ups about asking for it and less interest in performative nonsense. This adds an important layer to our LGBTQ viewers, especially for those in midlife who may have grown into a stronger sense of identity and comfort. The study also uncovered something especially meaningful for queer audiences. Vice reports that age, education, employment, and sexual orientation accounted for roughly 28% of the variation in desire, that the group with the highest desire was people who identified as bisexual or pansexual. This finding reflects the diversity of attraction patterns in our community and underscores how identity and relational openness shapes desires. I think this is just a very interesting study. Of course, I did read it. But, this study does remind us that we finally let go of those outdated heteronormative values that we have been fed for so many years, and that we were so youth obsessed that it's all about the 20s. And I know for someone like me, I'm in my 60s now, and I feel like I'm in my prime. So I really see that, and when it talks about identity and knowing who you are and coming to terms with who you are, and depending on the relationship, it really opens that up where you're not worrying about that performative talk that they mentioned.
This makes me so happy for all you boys, honestly, because in your 20s, all of you would stick it wherever and not know what the hell you were doing. Couches, toilet seat tops. These are stories from my gay boys, okay? Not the boys pictured right now, okay?
I didn't know we didn't do that.
I was wishing someone would stick it in me. But that's another story.
He had a sign.
For another show.
But I mean, for that reason. But this is not shocking. At least for me, I'm not shocked by it, okay? If you lived a little, you know that confidence is way hotter than youth. All right? It turns out that knowing what you want and asking for it and dropping the bullshit.
Right.
Honestly, helps things go better.
And these archaic surveys, I think, are no longer relevant. I mean, when they were talking about these things, I mean, like in the 1940s and 50s, when young men would be working in their 20s and stuff, or just creating a family at that point. So, as you're evolving and getting, now we're in the 2000s, and, men are getting more in their 30s and 40s, more that they want and stuff. So that feels it. But I'm in agreement with you. As you get more older, you get more liberated, and as someone in their mid-50s, you start to let go a lot of like these things, these self notions that you've created for yourself, and so it's kind of like a freedom to say, you start seeing more people being sex positive and just being okay with that. And that's so important for people, especially in the queer community that, are still trying to discover exactly, where the boundaries are at this point for them. So.
Well, I think that you become, once you love yourself enough, you become degaff. Yes. You know what degaff means, right? I mean, like that. You're not thinking, how does my stomach look if I'm turned over? How do I, you know what I mean? It's like, I want this loving and I deserve this loving, so let's do it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, as someone who apparently is in his sexual peak, according to this study, I look at like where I was at like 18 to 20 versus now, and like one of the big things, like, yes, when you're at that age, you're very easily excited by everything, but it's also very new. And like, your 20s is some of the most awkward sex of your life. Like, you're so nervous. You don't know if the other person likes you. You're so worried about their approval. Then I find your 30s are for your having sex with all your friends is like just your way of getting to know each other. Like, oh, I don't know you yet. Well, let's touch each other a few times and then become friends. And then now that I'm like in my early 40s, I'm like, It's fine. I'm confident. I know if they're going to be worth having a good time with or not at this point. You know, if someone was to try and proposition me, and I could probably figure out very quickly. It's like, this will be not for me. Don't worry about it, kid. Or like, you know, I'll be like, well, hello, sir. How are you? Yeah, let's have a good time.
Hello.
That's why profiles are so important on like Scruff and Growler, because
Yeah.
all of that you could sit and read.
Thank you, Vaughn, for that story. Oh my goodness. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by sharing them and subscribing to Queer News Tonight.